Hello, everybody. I am going live training today to teach you how to hire and why it's not as difficult as you think. All right. So, if you haven't met me yet, hi, I'm Pauline, and I'm the founder of Pauline Malubay Consulting. And I went from grappling with imposter syndrome and anxiety in the corporate world to now becoming the CEO of my own online business. And my passion lies in empowering visionaries with strategy, advisory, and implementation support so they can be unstoppable and realize their remarkable selves. And I combine my experience in Fortune 500 companies. I manage multiple podcasts for my clients, and I also lead and develop an agency of really talented individuals to now help others on their time, wealth, and joy in life. And our topic for today's training is how to hire and why it's not as difficult as you think. And I want to go about it in a part one and part two. Okay, so part one, I'm going to give you a little bit of experience from the point of view of an agency owner, such as myself. Okay, so as a CEO, you need to build a team. You will be constantly recruiting talent because your team will increase as the number of your projects increase, especially as an agency owner, right? So what are the things to consider in hiring someone to be a member of your team? Well, first and foremost, I think is the attitude of the person. You must hire someone who is trustworthy, dependable, willing to learn, and display a positive attitude. The second, of course, are skills. When you are starting your agency, you must consider hiring an administrator. This can be a virtual assistant, a personal assistant, whatever you want to call them, a tech virtual assistant, or a support role, and your right-hand person, such as a project manager or an online business manager. An administrator will be the one assigned to low-hanging tasks and will be responsible to delegate these tasks to the other teams of to other members of your team. And a tech VA will be the one double checking that things are dealt with accordingly, and they're in charge of any issues with, well, the IT department, right? The IT technicalities of things, how to run specific softwares, all of that stuff. The support role of a project manager, for example, works beside you as a CEO, adding strategies and assessing that the vision of the CEO is met. So I'm a COO to a lot of my CEO, 6-7-figure CEO online entrepreneurs. And I am basically the right-hand woman, making sure that I am in the details, I am in the weeds of their business, and making sure that they are understanding how to get to their vision. And we are implementing it. My team and I are implementing it, right? So after you finish hiring team members, you will undergo what we call the onboarding phase. And it is so important. I've mentioned this in other trainings, how the way you onboard your employees, the first 30 days of your employees, it really is a key part in how they're going to perform for the rest of their time in your company. During this onboarding phase, you will acquaint the team with the mission, vision, and goals of your company, of your agency, for example. And this is a get to know stage where you chat and share personal things. And it's really, really important to nail this part of the process in your hiring. After the onboarding phase, there is the development phase. This is also the learning and development stage where the new hires start working alongside you or the managers that you've hired them for. The skills they have, of course, vary. Some are top performers and highly efficient, but some others may lack the skills and may need more training, right? For those who lack skills, you can increase their productivity by giving them pieces of training to help them develop their highest potential. This is where you come in to manage the performance of your team, assess the scope and outcomes of the roles, manage meetings, develop the relationship, have an open communication policy. And this is where real leaders demonstrate that they are leaders, right? This is where leadership skills manifest. So if you're the CEO right now of your small business, then this is where you test out your leadership skills, or you can actually hire an online business manager or a COO to do this for you. Now, as the work progresses, skills that are developed, we now move to the succession phase. As you've been monitoring their growth, or your managers, online business managers are doing it for you, you can progress them to a different role where you can use the learned skills to your full advantage or to the business's full advantage. So we reached the last phase, which is workforce planning. So as a COO to my clients, and so all online business managers, project managers out there, this is really important. Here you will try to assess the volume of people that you need. Just like in healthcare or customer support industries, there may be a need for a shifting schedule, right? And this will be an ongoing cycle. It has no end, because when a new hire comes in, then again, this process begins. It is a huge cycle where talent is developed. And I've alluded this already to the training. Team leadership plays a vital role. Okay, you need to build a relationship with each of your team through meetings. I always say to my CEO clients, the very first thing that needs to happen is that you need to have a weekly team meeting where you stay connected, you lead by listening, and you assume positive intent, and you don't judge where people are coming from. And it's so important. Even in my agency, one of our values is candor. It's very important that your team members are able to really tell you what they think, really give you feedback, because a feedback-driven thing is really efficient. That's how you grow in business. You get feedback and you iterate. So now that I've told you a little bit about if you want to scale into an agency kind of business, let's continue to part 2. So part 2 is for my small business owners who are making more money, wanting to scale. Maybe they have 1 or 2 or 3 team members, and they want to just hire and develop their HR department or their talent, and they're ready. They're ready to just scale their revenue through people, through building a team. Your business is growing, you are upscaling, you see the need to bring more human talent to grow your company and fulfill its vision. So you need to hire. Okay, stick with me. Stay with me till the end of the video to know these amazing tips. Hiring should not be stressful as you think. And there's an art in hiring. There's no fixed formula in it. And there is a point where you have to kind of do it differently every single time, and you will improve as you go, especially as a small business owner. Before you post those job opportunities, there are things you might need to evaluate first. So 1, you need to assess the current situation of your company. And, do you have enough money or cash flow coming in for these people to, to pay these new hires, basically. 2, you need to create a bio and list all of these people working with you, and to create some kind of organizational chart. List the role, the capacity of each person, and how many hours are they currently working. If you don't know and you haven't time tracked in your agency or in your small business, then start doing this, because then you can start to measure the labor cost of your business as you grow. And this is really important. If you haven't done this, there are a lot of software that does this. We use ClickUp in my agency as a project management tool, and it actually has a time tracking feature in it. So make sure that when you are choosing a project management tool, you have that with you. Okay. Number 3 is list the tasks each individual is doing in your business. Understand each of their capabilities, because you might help this person move to a much higher position, and you've already built that trust and rapport with that person. So it's just easier to actually hire internally. You have a good overview of the status of your company now that you've done all of those steps. Next is to look at other aspects and consider, who to hire. And this is where you can set up the job description. So we need to ask yourself questions like, what position do you want to be fulfilled? What is the thing this person will do and help in your business? Is it administrative tasks? Is it having a web designer? Is it a marketing assistant, for example? Or is it salesperson? Do you need an employee, or do you need an independent contractor? When is their start date? And when do you want to start receiving applications? And what is the close date for these applications? And is this position remote or not? Number 2 is I want you to write time, and I want you to do a time and task assessment. Ask yourself what tasks you're good at as a CEO, and how much do you like doing this? And hold on to the tasks you love doing, and you can hire someone to do the other tasks. Number 3 is I want you to actually look at your budget, look at your financial goals, and see whether this hiring stage that you're doing, you can afford to hire a full-time employee, or do you need to hire a contractor? I want you to come up with your company values and hyperlink it to your company website. Your values are so important to hiring, because it's the kind of people that align with your values that will be successful employees ultimately. And I want you to link to their social media. I want you to actually have links to the social media profile. You need to put that in your hiring form, because it's good to, especially in this world that we live in, especially if you run an online business, that you're looking at what your contractor and your potential contractor and potential employee is doing, and actually checking out their social media profile and seeing what kind of interest they have beyond work and how they show up to the online business world, right? One of the other questions that I get is where to post for ideal candidates. And honestly, it all depends on your need. You can start local and with your audience. You can ask for referrals with people that you already know. There are local organizations like mom groups, for example, and also global, remote jobs, all of that. So there's plenty of people to ask and websites to consult. So we now proceed to the application or screening process. And I want you to ask questions relevant to the position and allow you to assess character. Remember that character is everything, right? Skills can be acquired. You have those onboarding process, the development phase that I was talking about earlier. There are things to consider when you're doing screening process, okay? So 1, create a comfortable environment and introduce yourself. 2 is validate information. Assess their honesty, their integrity. Did they lie in their resume? That's always kind of bad to do that, so don't do that. 3 is why do they want the job, right? You will be observing them and helping assess, right, whether they're in line with the core values of your business. And I want you to start creating situations, for example, of how situational behavioral situations, I'm sure you know all about this, how they manage a situation. For example, you can ask them, when was the last time that they were stressed and how they dealt with it? And you'll have a glimpse of their tolerance to stress. Of course, you can probably tweak those questions, so it's not a leading question, but something along those lines. You can also ask them for their overview of the business. And this is going to tell you whether they've actually done their research and studied the position and your company. 6 is create the same question for all applicants. And this way you create a fair interview and it's not biased. Okay, you're almost to the finish line. I want you to select the 10 candidates, create a spreadsheet and send out the forms for your screening questions. You will then be left with top 5. And honestly, a lot of people don't even bother filling in the form properly, and this will weed out a lot of candidates that are not committed to you. The last thing you do is, of course, send the hired email. Don't release those top candidates until a contract is signed. This is so important. And once that contract is signed and they've onboarded, I want you to celebrate because you've successfully accomplished your hire. Okay, so that was a lot of information. If you found this content useful and want to find out more about how we can help you, go to helpmepauline.com and let's continue the conversation. If you want to connect with me on social media, I can be found at CEO Pauline Malabai on Instagram and Pauline Malabai on LinkedIn. Also, be sure to check out the latest podcast episode of How She Owns It, where I interview CEOs to give you the best tips to move the needle forward in your business. I hope you've enjoyed this training, and I will see you on the next one.